Hello, everybody. Good morning. This is certainly meeting at 10:06, 10:07. And would like to remind everybody that in this committee, you do have the right to give your opinion, whether it's, bad or good, to help out the crew. And so we'll do a um, an icebreaker. And that's going to be, what a job do you want to have when you were, what job did you want to have when you were a child? You can either do it in chat or you can just tell on the recording. Mine was like, I kept switching careers when I was a kid. I would go from being an astronomer, being an accountant, being studying volcanoes, study of the ocean. So mine was like versatile all over the place until I got to be a teenager.
Well,
I'll share.
yeah.
When I was little, I wanted to be one of the nurses that would help deliver babies at the hospital. I loved babies. Crazy baby lady.
That's awesome. When I was a preteen, I wanted to work at the Jet Propulsion Laboratory for NASA, where they analyzed all the stuff that was coming in from the space probes, because I was a real geek. Not that that's changed much.
Yeah, and what about you?
Hey everyone, it's Dion. You know what? I don't know if it's cliche, but I always it was either firefighter or actually with NASA, I wanted to be an astronaut. I was so into stars and space and things like that. But here I am, I can't even get my camera angled right. So so those didn't work out.
Susan, what about you?
Let's see, Susan Garcia, Community Health Centers of Lane County. I can't think of anything. I just knew I wanted to be successful and happy in whatever I did.
Let's see, Samantha Brookshire. When I was very little, I wanted to be a neurosurgeon. And then I realized that was a lot of school and I didn't want to go to school for that long. So my next step was environmental lawyer. And I realized that's still a lot of school. I didn't want to do that either. And by the time I was ending high school, I actually really got interested in combating poaching and wanted to go work for a nonprofit that tracks and captures poachers to bring them to justice. Clearly didn't do anything of that sort, but that was me. Nearly out in Siberia tracking people who are hunting tigers.
Hunting tigers.
What
I don't
about
know
you?
why I had a massive problem with people hunting tigers in high school. Like that was my Roman Empire right there, poaching.
What about you, Judith?
Well, I wanted to be a missionary.
That's pretty cool.
Just anywhere, or do you have a place in mind?
No, I just knew that I had a calling, and that's what I wanted to do.
Brandy?
Hopefully you can hear me okay. I was having some connectivity issues, but Brandy with Maslow Project here in Grants Pass. And I really wanted to be a horse trainer, kind of random. And then I did that, and now I'm not doing that. So, yeah.
Okay. April is here, but having computer issues. Okay. Did I get everybody? Did we get everybody? Looks like we did. We do like to remind people that we do have a long agenda. So I'm hoping that we can get through it throughout the whole meeting today, I hope. So with that being said, I'm gonna hand it over to James.
Well, thank you, George. And let's just run through what is in the pipeline. We've got that big ld information on the red X and the pencil. That's coming along. We're halfway through the different pages that are getting that update with the exclamation of what those icons mean. But that Vanessa will be happy to know that request 25 with the ERDC, displaying if you're actually connected with childcare provider, that's up and running, but the mobile is scheduled for next month, the mobile update. And go into the next slide. We've got some of the two that we worked on last month. The prompt for college students, that's going into the September 4th build, and clarifying how to describe relationships, how to identify the relationships, that's going into the September 18th build. And Samantha, do we have any updates on the reported change screen? Probably not, but just in case.
Not yet. Just to kind of explain what's going on, we know this is going to take a couple of work items to do it. We're just not sure exactly how many. So Andrew and I met with our contractor partners who do the development to talk through the changes and talk through a strategy. How do I put this? Work items are very particular in that they are only supposed to be 50-hour changes, and you're not technically supposed to have multiple work items that have to go in at the same time for, if you have work item 1 and work item 2, having to have work item 1 and 2 go in the same time, or neither of them will work. So we're having to think very strategically on how we break up the work such that if we're not able to do it all in the same release, the page may be ugly, can't be uglier than it already is, but it may be a little ugly. It might go through a gawky teenager phase, but it will still be completely functional. So that's some of the logistical work we're doing behind the scenes. So we don't have a build date quite yet while we're trying to figure out those logistics.
Ruth?
Yes, I'm wondering what happened to our discussion about the registrars being educated to help the people that come in to be prepared for this, or that the documents that are used in one can be used in the other. We had a discussion on this, how we could help the student be better prepared.
When you say registrars, you're talking about the college students, or?
Yes.
Okay. I'm trying to remember.
We discussed about how this could shorten the time for the people making application if they were told up front they would need this material.
Yeah, and that's what, well, in a small way, that's what this request 40 does, is it adds that bullet asking, and I don't have the wording in front of me, but asking college students to send in their financial aid information, because that's a very common hang up on their applications. is they haven't set it in, and so it delays the whole process. So hopefully it's being preemptive.
Right.
Yeah.
But we were going to work with the registrar's office to
The community colleges and the colleges to make sure they're doing that. Oh, good grief. Thanks for mentioning that, Ruth. I do talk with the college navigators. I have a monthly meeting, and I don't think I brought it up with her at that time. So, but we do talk about difficulties that college students face. So I'm going to make sure we're going to see what they need, basically. Thanks for pointing that out.
Okay, now are we gonna also work on things on this request 42, James? Besides what you and Ruth have talked about?
Yeah, so you mean the request 40? Yeah, it's outside the build, but we can check in to make sure that that there aren't other particular spots where college students are getting hung up on their applications. I know there's a SNAP policy they're very frustrated with, but it's a good point to make sure that there's preventable things that they're not being stuck on. Okay. So very briefly mentioned in the Friday email was a feedback survey. And I hope you at least took a look, because this was something that we were talking about, given that we just passed our 1-year anniversary of this committee meeting. And we were just hoping to get we're hoping to get just some input, and it's anonymous in this survey of, as you can see, the challenges that if you click it open, the challenges that people are facing, or that you've faced working in this committee, and how we can do things a little more effectively. It was just and I'll throw in the link that's on the screen. So I think since we only got one response, we might wait till next month. Well, the idea was to encourage you to think about it and put something in, but we don't need to spend a lot of time right now discussing it. After all, we only put like 10 minutes in the agenda for this. But if there's any thoughts right now that people want to seed the conversation with, we can do that.
Well, this is George. I know that we've put a lot of hard work into this, and we've come a long ways. It's, from my point of view, it's getting better than what it used to be. On the work we do.
So yeah, appreciate the response we've gotten, and we'll take a look at other people's work coming up. So without further ado, I guess we'll move on to this screen. And now, a couple things to keep in mind. The reason we're asking about this is, it's good to review our times in general, but George has a conflict, And as co-chair, he was asking if we could at least take a look at, see if we have some other options. And I know we have another co-chair who will be able to step in despite being on a trip at this time. But just want to explore just a few minutes if any of these other times, well, I mean, the problem is, you know, where are the conflicts for these times? And if we can get something that works for everyone, you know, that might even be a permanent change, who knows? But so I'm just going to run through these really quick. So please either put in the comments or speak up if you have a conflict. So August 9th, a Friday, the Friday before our regular meeting. That's sort of a late afternoon, Vanessa, that's probably not going to work for you anyway. I'm looking at it. But
Why not? Because it doesn't work with offices?
it doesn't
The
work
office staff?
because no, but it doesn't work because she's in the Eastern time zone.
Oh, okay. Oh, sorry.
Unless you want to spend a Friday night doing this sort of thing. But
I actually don't work Friday, so I would just have to come in for this.
Oh, yeah.
But again, it's whatever as a whole works best for everyone. I will be flexible and wherever anyone, yeah, whatever works for everyone.
fair enough, April. Let's
So Friday, the 9th won't work for, okay, so we'll take that off. But what about the Friday, the 16th? Is that a bad one also?
the morning.
Yeah.
It sounds like some people don't work on Fridays.
Oh, okay. Thursdays are usually a pretty busy day for most advisory council people.
Are they?
Yeah. I mean, I know that Ruth has, and I have advisory meetings, and then we have an NEMT meeting, but the 14th, is anybody else okay on the 14th? Which is a
Uh-huh.
Wednesday?
Me personally, on the 14th, I'm okay so far.
Uh-huh. Yeah, that's the whole issue, right, George? So far. Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds like there's interest on the 14th.
Mhm.
Is there someone that it doesn't work for on the 14th?
April said that she'll try to move her budget meeting that day.
So we're looking at 12:30 to 2:30.
Yeah.
You guys going to be eating lunch while you're online?
Okay, Susan said that she's good with the days and times, good for her.
Okay.
Move the budget meeting for April. She can move that. And Inja said she thinks she can make it work that day on the 4th or on the 14th.
Okay,
Yeah,
second call on the 14th. Yeah, a lot of discussion about eating here, but it's second call on the 14th. Does it not work for anyone?
Fine.
I'm a little surprised we found something.
Well, I think it would work better if you provided lunch for us.
DoorDash.
Ruth,
Agree with that.
Ruth, can you do the 14th?
Yes,
Okay, Judith, you can do the 14th?
I can, yes.
And Vanessa, can you do the 14th?
That works for me.
Samantha?
Probably. You know, I'll make it work.
Okay, Brandy?
Yes, that works for me.
And I think I might have seen Mariah up here. I think. Mariah? Yeah. Yeah, Mariah has the 14th available too. Okay, Sydney, did I see you up here, Sydney? Okay. Sydney has only the August 9th only conflict, so it looks like Sydney, you'll be okay with all the 14th? Okay, April says she can do the 14th. Okay, so I guess it's the 14th. I think
What?
April can do the 14th too, I think.
I'm so
So it looks-
impressed.
So I think August 14th looks like it's good.
So we have we're missing a couple people, but yeah, I'm a little flabbergasted. That's wonderful. All right.
It can be
But
done.
with the changes though, you're going to have to make sure you keep prompting us to remember the changes.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
yeah. And you know, we can even think about this we want to have this as a permanent change too, but maybe we discuss
Oh, it
that.
would be great for me because I'm missing something I'd rather be at right now.
Yeah, me too.
Wow.
Angel, you can make the 14th also?
Yes, I can.
Okay, here's what I'm gonna suggest. You go and cancel the other date of August and give us all the link of this meeting for August 14th.
Yeah, I can do that after this.
Yeah, we'll finish that up. Okay. That's great.
I want to thank you all for working with me on this. This was beyond my control. So thank you for working with me on it.
Okay, well, how about that? I suppose we were on Wednesdays once upon a time. Now we're looking at moving back, but we'll see how it goes. All right, look at us. We're actually a little bit ahead of schedule. So instead of going on a break, if we can go to the next slide, we have a new request to consider. And I don't think we really got a write-up for you, unfortunately, but we can talk about it, which means really in my role, that's where I hand it off to Samantha to talk about it.
Hold on a second. I know I did a write-up on this one. Yeah, I did.
I thought so too, and I don't think we got it out for people.
I wasn't checked. All right, let me get it open into something so you guys can see it. And then I'll start sharing my screen. Or I can tag Angel and she can pull it up and then I don't have to. Oh, that's a better idea. There we go. All right.
So you have it, Angel?
Sorry, I'm pulling it up right now.
And that way I don't have to fight with it. So that's fantastic for me. Thank you.
Mhm. Okay. For some reason, is it the 30, oh, I see briefing sheet 3539?
I have
Mhm.
it. You want
Okay.
me to share it, Angel?
Yes, could you? Because my computer's being very slow right now.
That's rude of it.
There we go.
All right. So this is a request that came in from ODHS staff. So it's not from our users, it's a staff request. And these ones are always a little bit tough to decide if they're changes that benefit the public and they're ones that this committee wants to move forward, or if these are really for workers and they should be using, because the workers do have a sister committee to our committee, and they have a bank of work item slots as well. So sometimes they try to give us some of their ideas to have us implement, and James and I do have to push back and go, that's really a worker, that's for the workers benefit. That's not for us. So this one, there's a strong worker benefit, but bringing it before you guys to see if you see a customer public benefit as well, and if we want to move forward with it. If not, we can reject it and send it back over to the worker group for them to decide if they want to move forward with it.
I need the font increased.
Okay, I'll make it bigger. How's that?
Much better. There, yes.
Okay. Thanks, James. So basically, when an individual is applying for a program where they need to have an interview in order to be approved for benefits, or to determine if they're eligible for benefits, what happens is they will submit their application and staff will attempt to cold call them. And if they don't take the cold call, because they're busy, they're working, they're at another appointment, they don't recognize the phone number, whatever, what have you, staff will then just book them an appointment and send them a letter letting them know when the appointment's going to be. If an individual, goes through that path and has the appointment booked for them, next time they log into their ONE online portal, they will be able to see that they have an appointment. And they'll get like a notice right on the dashboard that says, like, you have an upcoming appointment. Click here to find out more information. And it'll take them to a screen where they see the details, the time, the date, the location, if it's going to be in the office or if it's going to be by phone, etc. So they'll be able to see all the details. There are scenarios, two specific scenarios, where an interview won't work out. The first being that the individual simply does not want to go through the interview. They applied for benefits and then changed their mind. They don't actually want to get them. For whatever reason, circumstance changed, whatever, what have you. They no longer want to receive benefits, so they just want to cancel their appointment. The other one is that the time just doesn't work for them. Again, for whatever reason, it could be during their workday or whatever. So they would like to cancel the appointment and have it rescheduled. So staff what happens when a customer clicks cancel appointment is it just goes behind the scenes and cancels the appointment. But when they click cancel and call me to reschedule, it will cancel the appointment. But then it creates a task for a worker to go reschedule the appointment. Unfortunately, it doesn't include any sort of information about when would be a good time for the appointment, right? So staff now have to try to call and find out when would be a good time for the appointment. So it turns into this loop of like having to call people and them maybe not picking up or being available to give that information. And, it just kind of a big fiasco. So what staff were suggesting is that if an individual clicks cancel and call me to reschedule, that we make a free text box available where the person can give information about what days and what times are best for their appointment. So that the customer can provide that information and staff can book the appointment without having to play phone tag with them to find out when it's a good time for an appointment. So that was the first of the two suggestions. So interested to know if this committee would like to pick up and move forward with this change, or if we feel like it's not a high value change for customers.
This is George. I think it'd be beneficial for both staff and consumer. That way, for people with dementia or whatever, someone's helping them, it would be easy for them to know what their appointment would be. And so on and so forth, especially with a person with a disability. So I think it'd be beneficial for us to work on this. What do you all think?
I agree that it's beneficial on both ends as well. We have families that either have work schedules that automatic, scheduling doesn't work for, or things come up, life happens, or there's those that need assistance, whether it be translation or additional support just to help them go through the application. They would like to have someone there as support. So I think this is a great way to aid both the eligibility workers as well as clients. And also, if it's a straight cancel, is there a ability to do a drop down on the cancel, like no longer interested, or just also so that it can like kind of close it out and have a note? Or is it just only drop down for cancel and call me? Or would we be able to do like cancel appointment and like, are you canceling because you're no longer interested, or something else?
We could look into adding the ability for individuals to tell us the reason why they're canceling. Yeah, we could do that if there would be interest. We would need to, are we talking about just like a free text or a drop down, are you thinking?
I think even if you just did like a drop down and maybe other, how much work is it to do like other and then only allow like 10 characters or something, or a small amount of characters, but then have like I no longer think I qualified, I'm no longer interested, I moved out of the region, like different things like that. 'Cause I know for us, when we have people leave mid-application or not follow through, the state asks us, why did people not complete the application?
Okay. Yeah. So we're talking about like yeah, we could certainly do it.
I mean, because I could also see that be like, we could use that as for instance, ERDC. Why are people not finishing through with the ERDC? Is it because they found childcare? They think they're no longer eligible? The process was too complicated, whatever it may be. It helps us, figure where maybe we can fill gaps on why clients aren't following through.
And I think you make a great point that leadership would love to have that data on a dashboard. So yeah, fantastic.
And we also need to realize that these people may not always have telephones available to them at any time. Because if they're the low income and needing assistance, they don't always have available telephones.
Exactly, Judith. For our population that don't have telephones or don't have regular access to the telephone, and the only way we can communicate with them is mail, it takes 5 days. So you can end up playing a lot of appointment tag, trying to figure out the right day when the appointment will work for everybody. And it can really quickly get us to the limit of our application lifespan, which is 30 days for a SNAP application or 45 days for ERDC cash or medical. If you're mailing and they're to set an appointment for them and they're canceling and then saying reschedule me, and then you have to mail them again, and yeah, it can add up really quickly.
Mariah, Sydney, April, Randy, what do you all think? Anja, Susan? I do have a question for you, Samantha. When it's the ODHF staff, are you referring to case managers?
Case managers don't typically handle their own scheduling. They normally have support staff handle it. But oh, or do you mean who is this request coming from?
Like if a case manager was asked by a supervisor in a branch office to help with the appointment, to help their consumer, with this, would this help them out too? Because I know that some case managers like to get into this to really help their consumer understand. They like to be helpful.
I'm not entirely sure, George, because the case management portions of our programs are in systems other than ONE, so I don't believe that they schedule their appointments through ONE. This would just be for the financial eligibility intake, and that's usually the case workers who do that. So, but that said, in smaller offices, I know that there are case managers who kind of step in anywhere and do any work, just to make sure that the office runs smoothly. So it could be something where a case manager would, yes, be doing this work to pick up these tasks and reschedule the appointment. But it wouldn't necessarily be appointments for their clients.
Another question I want to ask is there is this also in the app where they can do this keep appointment, reschedule appointment in the app? And number 2 question would be, will they get, like if they cancel an appointment, will they get a reminder somehow, either by email or so, to inform them that they had canceled their appointment?
Let me see. To answer your first question, they can see that they have an appointment in their mobile app, but the ability to modify or cancel their appointment does not exist in the mobile app right now. And then do they get, after they change their appointment, do they get some sort of confirmation? No, they do not get confirmation right now.
Will they in the future?
We can certainly ask.
I think that's a good idea.
All right.
That's a real good idea.
So I think I've heard 2 things maybe we want to ask about, both sending a confirmation email to confirm the appointment change, and to add the ability to modify or cancel an appointment through the mobile app.
Yes.
Okay.
Anja, question?
Yes, so I think in the one portal that the assister, like me, OEP assister use, we see the interview notice on their benefit screen, the interview schedule, but I don't think we can modify that. We don't have that option.
Let me
So-
double that, Inja, because we had a big conversation and I don't want to lead you astray, but I thought that we did make it so you guys could.
Okay, maybe, okay, but Maybe now maybe that's kind of new, maybe. Okay, I haven't seen it, but I would love to have that option. So thank you.
Yeah, let me and I'll let you know.
Okay.
Be on the
And
new work.
right, and I do think it is yeah, it would be a great, it will benefit the consumer as well as the ODHS staff and us sister as well. So thank you.
Samantha, the reason why I suggested the second question is because on the app, because some people don't have computers and they all have their information coming through their phones, like their emails, their stuff. So that's why I suggested the reschedule appointment stuff to the app.
No, that's really a great idea, George. I've just turned this one work item into like 4 work items through this conversation. So, and yeah, you called it. It definitely should be in the mobile app. I love the idea.
Does anybody else want to give Samantha ideas? Now would be the time.
So are we just asking them when a good time for them to reschedule the appointment is, or when is a good time for them to get a call back to reschedule the appointment? Or is it both together?
I had suggested text, and you guys can modify this to make it work. But tell us what days and times are best for your appointment as text to instruct them what information we need. So I was suggesting that it's tell us when's a good time for the appointment.
So the worker will still reach out to them, but if they're not able to contact them, they'll just automatically reschedule the appointment for that preferred time.
I'd have to touch base with how we want to operationalize this with our service delivery. I would think probably practically what's going to happen is if I type in here Mondays after 4 p.m., I don't think a worker's going to, like, realistically, I don't think a worker's going to call. I think they're just going to find the next Monday after 4 p.m. appointment and book it for me and then mail me that letter telling me it's Monday, 4 p.m.
Yeah, the button says cancel and call me to reschedule.
Yeah. Well, I put a note down for myself because I also forgot to write this in the write up here, is that we need to change the button to say cancel and reschedule. However, we can ask that staff do call them if that's the direction we want to go. Whatever you guys think is the best customer service and the best use of individuals' time.
So I work a lot with having to contact clients just for certain programs, and I just feel like maybe having it be like, okay, cancel and contact me to reschedule. But if they're calling them and have them on the phone, is this a good time to complete this interview? Because many times it's hard to just get a hold of a client, and giving them that opportunity, like, hey, you canceled, you'd like to reschedule. Would you like to reschedule or complete eligibility now or complete your interview now? Giving them that option, because I know it's sometimes so hard to get a hold of a client. And if you have them on the phone and that is a good time and a great opportunity. So might as well doing that. So not creating a stopgap where no, you can only contact them and reschedule. But if they want to reschedule it for another time. But if they are there and this is a good opportunity, completing it then.
Okay. Yeah. That's what I'll put in our notes for service delivery, that we would prefer if they would call and see if they want, if they get them on the phone, if they want to just do the intake right then. Sounds good to me.
Judith, was there something you want to say, Judith?
Well, I'm just going to give you an example. Does anybody here on this group belong to Kaiser Permanente? Okay, then I can speak. I belong to Kaiser Permanente and I use the mobile app, George. I use the mobile app. And when I have to cancel an appointment, I go into the mobile app and I put cancel, and then a thing pops up and it says, it has a calendar and it says, would you like to reschedule on one of these days and choose a time? And that's the way it works. Now, that may be too expensive for us to integrate into this system, but I find it very easy to use, and it's pretty much like what we're talking about, except that we're talking about callbacks, and so I just wanted to see if that was something anybody was interested in.
Extremely interested. It is definitely a change request. It's too big for a work item, but it is something we've been circling around for a while and trying to prioritized.
It's more than 50 hours. Is that what you're saying?
Oh, yeah, it has to call out and search yeah, it's a big one. There's quite a bit of connection that needs to happen to be able to do it. But it is something we're looking at as a future enhancement. So
okay.
You're just reading the future is what you're doing right now.
Yes.
But yes, very interested, deeply interested.
Jan says here, typically the person calling will be the administrative staff assigned to be the scheduler, not the eligibility worker, unless the conversation is happening with the eligible worker. However, this may look different depending on the district and staffing.
Yeah, just to add to that, typically that there'll be someone within the offices that are assigned as the scheduler for the day. And so even there are times where an Oregonian may be talking with an eligibility worker and they're like, you know what, I can't have this conversation right now. Can we reschedule? Sometimes that eligibility worker, depending on what their day looks like, may actually kick that back to the scheduler to reschedule or get like a request and reschedule it. So a lot of times those conversations, not obviously we're also talking about the mobile app, but when you're having the physical conversation, a lot of times it'll be a scheduler that they'll reschedule with, or who would make that call to reschedule.
Are you talking about someone on your staff, Dion?
It would be someone at the local offices typically.
Okay. So April, Sydney, Mariah, Vanessa, and Angia, Radford, Susan. Do you see this being a problem with your consumers when you're helping them? Mariah?
I just have my listening ears on right now.
Oh. Okay, April is no. Okay.
I think it's helpful for everybody.
Okay. Samantha, you want both 35 and 39, right?
Well, I think we just talked through 35, and it sounds like we want to move forward with 35 and then 35 A, B, and C. I want to talk about 39 though, because this is the one where I'm like, I'm really not 100% sure about the client benefit one. This one feels like it's very much for the workers, rather than for the customers. And I feel like we have a lot of work to do, and we need to focus on what benefits the customers the most. But again, it's your guys's, they're your change slots, and if you see this one, you go, yeah, we should totally do that. It is your call. So 39 is kind of similar. It picks up where 35 left off, but basically staff are seeing that appointments are getting canceled, but they can't see who did it or why they did it. They're just seeing that it's canceled. And they are wanting a change so that when a customer clicks that cancel appointment button, it'll map through into the worker portal and say that the customer canceled the appointment without requesting a reschedule. Or if they click cancel and call me to reschedule, it'll map to customer canceling appointment. And actually, can you scroll down a little bit, Angel? Yeah, it'll map through for the customer, saying the customer canceled the appointment and wants a reschedule. So this is all stuff that would only be visible to the workers and is for worker understanding of why an appointment got canceled. It's no changes on the customer side. But it could result in workers making less confused calls to customers trying to understand what happened. Or if, let's say you have two people who are sharing an account, which is a no-no, but we know that people do it. I mean, I'll just show my cards. My partner has a credit card, and guess who logs into the website for it to manage the payments? It's not him, it's me. So sometimes, you know, you have the one individual who's a little more of the organizing person, right? So they could, you know, the organizing person or the not organizing person could log in and go like, oh, that appointment doesn't work, cancel. And then the other person calls and goes like, hey, why is my appointment canceled? And staff can't figure out the reason. So I can see some client benefits, but I can also see an argument to say, hey, this really needs to be handled by the other group.
For me, this is George. For me, as a consumer side of things, I think that if it was to be that way, it would, I feel that it would speed up my it would speed up what is actually trying to take place for me. Like that way, there's not all this figuring on who did what. It's actually there stating who did what, and not trying to figure out who did what or why it did what. It'd be, for me in the consumer way, easier and speed up for me. Ruth?
Well, it might be interesting if we could just put a total frustration button there.
Isn't that just the button to access the portal?
No, that's just the button that to let people know that there's something not working with the system if it's doing nothing but frustrating the people.
April agrees with you, Ruth. How would you guys look at this, Vanessa, Sydney, Mariah?
It kind of sounds like duplication of what we just worked on a little bit, because we just said that we were going to have a council appointment, and that, like, I feel like what we just worked on 35 kind of already answers 39 a bit. Unless I'm seeing it differently.
No, you're right. There's definitely a connection between the two.
Would there be less frustration on your part, Vanessa?
I'm frustrated every day. No, I'm just kidding. I think I get what I'm hearing, where this is more on the worker side, because the ability for someone to reschedule or cancel or say why they're canceling is very clear cut on 35. So I feel like this is almost just a 35D. We already said we did an A, B, and a C. Maybe it's a D where it connects everything. Does it have to be a 39? just to me, I see it's like, looks like duplication a bit.
It honestly, the 39 is just the serial number that was attached to it when it was submitted. It really is very much connected to 35 in a fundamental way. We couldn't implement, well, we could implement 39 without 35, but it wouldn't be as effective. You're right that it's truly like a 39 or a 35D. And I think, yeah, what we're suggesting in 35 and 35A for the cancellation reason and the free text around when to reschedule, it's really gonna help drive staff to understanding who took the action. So it might almost resolve 39.
Yeah, like I think a client saying I need to cancel because this time doesn't work for me, or so it's already creating that pathway for the worker. It's a 2-for-1 is what I see, because then it's also, again, cancel, not interested, or whatever it may be. It's already leading into 39.
Agree. Yeah.
Susan, Sydney, what do you think? Mariah? Radford? Angia? Would this help or hurt you guys?
How about till we take our 10-minute break and we can come back and review what we have and get any final thoughts. How's that sound?
Sounds good.
Okay. So let's come back at well, it'll be I guess 15 after, and let's put a bow on this, at least for now.
Okay. Now we're going on break. Okay, recording off. It states here from April, those letters are bananas. James, we could fill a book with stories of families getting mixed messages when trying to move through an application process. And that's from April. She wanted you to know that.
Yeah, in April, like I mentioned during the break, I'd love to get those examples, take some pictures and and send them in so we can see what the heck is going on. And Susan, that is a funny comment that you speak English, Spanish, and OHP eligibility letter.
Yeah. Okay, we're back from break, and are we proceeding with 35 and 39, or are we going on?
Well, let's wrap it up. Sam, do you have a recap that you could give us?
Sure. So it sounds like we were all in on 35. We decided that we're going to add a free text when an individual clicks cancel and call me to reschedule. That will allow them, that will say basically something to the extent of tell us a good time and days of the week for your appointment. When the customer clicks that, it's going to create a task for the worker. That's going to give them the best times. We are going to ask that workers still do try to reach out one more time to call them and see if they can get a cold call done at that time. And if they're not able to reach them, to schedule based on that information provided in the free text. We're going to add a drop down to the cancel appointment that has reasons, and we will come up with some reasons So let me write them. We need to decide on reasons. That the clients can choose from that will be visible on Worker Portal as well for reporting and leadership dashboards if they're interested. I think that they will be once we have it. Why would they want it, right? We decided that we would like to add an email confirmation when the individual says that they want to cancel and reschedule. When they click that button, we would like it to trigger an email to inform them that their appointment has been canceled and that they will be contacted to reschedule. And if we're not able to reach them, that we will go with the times they told us. And we decided that we want to add the ability to manage their appointment to the mobile app. So take this whole functionality and copy paste it into the mobile app. And we also, it sounded like we were discussing that potentially 39 is resolved through 35. What we would need to do is have that free text of appointment time, best appointment times and days populate onto the Worker Portal side so the worker can see, oh yes, they asked to cancel and reschedule. Or populate in that cancel reason on the Worker Portal side so that they can see it was a customer ask and here's the reason they wanted to cancel. So we think we resolved 39 through 35.
Sounds good.
And
Sounds good.
And we'll have a nice write-up for the next meeting, right?
Yes. Yeah, I'm gonna hopefully type all of this out this afternoon because I don't want to lose any of those thoughts I just had.
Oh,
right, right now they're scribbled on an envelope. So
as long as it's not your check deposit.
no, it's a bill. But it's either notes on envelopes on my desk or notes on a million Post-it notes. I don't know why that is my best organization. I've tried using technical, to-do lists and OneNote and that sort of stuff, and somehow these envelopes are my guy.
I understand, Sam. As my memory seems to be going, I have yellow stickies everywhere.
About writing it versus typing it. I don't know what it is.
Oh yeah,
it's better.
Mm-hmm. But then you have to be able to read it.
Oh yeah, that's always the trick. Sometimes I'm looking at it later and I'm like, what was I talking about? and then worse, like I won't be able to remember, and then like weeks later I'll be like, oh, that's what that meant.
Well, Samantha and I are going to be stuck in a car for a while tomorrow and Thursday, so we can make sure that she gets it all all completed. Oh, that's very sweet.
That's one going off of Vanessa's comment that she gets love notes from her daughter. My child also did me a sticky note. I love you.
So we're all in agreement on the 30, 39, 35, right?
Yep. Well,
okay. And Samantha, if so, the next meeting come August, you'll be bringing back the results or whatever on 35.
Yep, I will have them all fleshed out for us to talk through and decide every aspect of.
Okay.
Thank you, Samantha.
Thank you, Samantha, for your good work. We appreciate you.
Thank you. Couldn't do it without you guys. A lot of those were ideas that had never floated in my head, so I appreciate it.
Yeah, that was a really good discussion, and it'll be helpful for developing this work item next month. We are now back on schedule, maybe a couple minutes behind, and in the agenda, we were going to finally talk about change requests, and it sounds like maybe we're getting some other ideas as well. Now, as you can see in our PowerPoint presentation, we've got a few that have been created or been suggested to us that, you know, we looked at as possible work items and realized they were too big. I have a bigger or a different table that has a little more information. I don't know if you want me to share that, but I think part of the point of us talking here is, what would you like to do? Should we dig into these? Should we talk about other ones like we just sort of were touching upon? And I should mention, just as a review, that when we say change requests here at OEP, it means these are changes that are going to require more than 50 hours of work from our consultant, and that they, you know, they're bigger changes. There's more of a backlog on these items, so they're going to take longer to get in, but we keep talking about them, but we haven't actually really determined when we want to do. And if we never do that, we're never going to get a change in. So with that preamble, you can see the list and just open it up to discuss. Anything you want more information on, anything like that? Yeah, George?
James, you might want to let the committee know that these, as we're seeing them, if my memory recalls me right, that these are smaller than the other big items that you were mentioning. For, you know, that these
What did you mean by that, George?
Well, me and James and Samantha, maybe Samantha could explain it better. There's the bigger items and then there's the smaller items. And if I
are you
recall,
talking about like some of these, you know, just because they're a change request doesn't mean they're all the same size too. Some are particularly big and some are just a little bit bigger in a work item and still count as change request, but it might be possible to fit in sooner. Is that what you're referring to?
yeah.
Okay.
So there are smaller ones and bigger ones?
Yeah. Like you notice we even put a note in number 20. It's particularly large build that had a button in OP. I'm not even sure what OP is, allowing Oregonians to request an interview during a certain time. So related to our previous discussion.
Looks like we suggested this one before also. OP is probably online portal, James.
Yeah, let's change that.
Your primary work on work items, which are smaller builds less than 50 hours. Okay, Dion.
Yeah, just as a reminder, you know, if we're changing the wording of a question, adding some text, info text, you know, those are work items. But if you're changing the structure of the system, then you're looking at a change request. And that's, you know, opens up a lot more possibilities.
So you're asking for our votes on this?
Well, not even a vote yet. But I mean, maybe we could talk more detail about these particular items or these particular change requests that have come through. And maybe that'll spur some thought. But we could also, you know, have an open discussions too. So here,
I thought we wanted to see if we wanted to prioritize some of these, or if there's others that additional input that other people wanted to give of what changes they would like to see, because we need to start slotting these, because right now they're at 2026, right? Was that what this discussion
through 2026? Yeah.
2026. So right now change requests are booked out until 2026. These are some of the options that we've thrown around in the past, but we were advised that they are change requests. So we just need to work on deciding if we want to pick one now and say, hey, let's prioritize these two because they could impact a more amount, a larger amount of clients, or could just do a larger impact overall for the clients? Or is there anything that we don't have here that we know could potentially be a big, could make large positive change for clients? Because we need to just kind of put whatever horse we have in the race now, because it's so far out that we need to kind of slot something, right? Is that what this was?
I think that's a great summary. Yeah.
If my mom brain remembers correctly, it's currently
No,
mush right now.
You've got it. I mean, we could potentially say, yeah, let's log all of these. And, then it's up to James to go into these quarterly meetings and fight other people to say, hey, no, we really need to do these. But we do want to, yeah, it's exactly like what James just did. Totally accurate. It could be that we look at one of these and we're like, you know what, actually, a year later, thinking about it, maybe we don't care for that one as much. And we decide we don't want to log it. Just kind of going through and reviewing and saying like, yes, let's get this logged, or no bother. Let's not do it. I don't think we need to say, oh, we can only log one, or let's only log two, or we'll log this later. It does, logging it doesn't guarantee us a release date. It just gets it in line to be looked at. It's the process is very different from work items. Work items, we get 4 of them a month. We have no such allowances with change requests. So we can, like I said, we can choose to log them all, or we can say, you know what, actually 22, we're not really sure about that one. So let's log all of them except 22. We just need to go through and review.
And another piece of context is a lot of the change requests, they're legislatively mandated. The governor's office is called and said, you got to, you really have to do this. And so things like that get bumped up, where the federal government is saying, you do this or you're losing your funding. Those tend to get bumped to the front of the line. And that's why our calendar is so filled right now with them. But that doesn't mean that this group doesn't have important ideas that shouldn't get in the queue.
And just to add to that too, past the whole part where we identify some that maybe you want to work on from these change requests. This was that topic that when our sponsor Jillian joined us 2 months ago, and she basically gave y'all the opportunity that if there was any of these that you really felt strongly about and wanted to help lobby for getting these change requests in, that she essentially opened the door for you to be able to go and join James in that proverbial fight for putting them on the list. So there's also that too. If you feel strongly about it, you're more than welcome to join in those lobbying for these.
Yeah, I just started joining these meetings, and I'm like realized, holy cow, there's a lot here, and I'm trying to put together a guide and how to explain what's going on. And one of the tricks is, you've got a bunch of parties in there who are talking about, using their own sort of shorthand to describe like a change request. And they've already talked about it for the last several months. And if you jump in, then it's a bit to catch up on. And so, yeah, and so that is something that we're hoping to do, to get a couple members here who would be interested in attending some of these meetings to start pushing ideas. But right now we don't have any ideas to push, so that's sort of our first step.
James, this is George. As I'm reading number 20, that seems to kind of either add in with 5 or almost the same thing as 35. Number 20 there.
Yeah.
I think that was to actually book and I think someone brought up about being Kaiser and being able to select a time, and that that Samantha jumped in that we're not actually able to do that. You can put in text to request a time for a callback, but you yourself cannot say, hey, this is the appointment that I'm picking, right? Because that's a much bigger build.
Yeah, and that's
Yeah.
what 20
For now.
bigger build. So what 35 would be is almost a stopgap until 20 could go in.
Right.
We couldn't get 20 in any earlier than 2026, and that's provided James wins the fight. I'll be rooting for him, but they don't invite me to those meetings, so it'll be behind the scenes.
So 20 is not the same as 35, right?
Correct.
Right.
Well, but it is kind of. I mean, it's a stopgap until until the hours can be spent way down the river. This is as close as we can get.
Yeah, 35 is our this is fine, close enough version of 20, which is our like top of the mountain best.
It's our, this is our Christmas tree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just for the record, I like 22. I like 11. And I like
Yes.
45.
Oh, I hate that timed out business. It drives me crazy. Does that mean it starts all over again?
Can be a pain.
Well, and for us, we recently just had this. We had, if you are considered denied, we had to stop paying a provider because the client was considered denied. And even though she was able to get reinstated and put into pending for that amount of paperwork, we have to remove the family. They're no longer qualified. They're no longer in the program. It's all this paperwork. And then 6 days later, they were able to resolve an issue, but now they're considered pending. So now they're back on.
Oh.
And then there's a hole of income for the provider because that's a rule we have that if they're considered denied, we cannot continue paying for that for them. They're no longer a client.
Oh, so the provider is being paid even though they were denied?
No, they're not getting paid. They're not getting paid because they're the client. So you have in our program, you have families and the families and the child cannot attend their full time. So if they timed out, so they're now considered denied. Therefore, the child cannot attend their full time. They are not the provider. That child is no longer attached to them with our program until they're able to change it. So then they are able to no longer be timed out and then they go back to pending. And we've also seen like a client call in on a Monday and then a document is due that Thursday, but they don't receive the letter of the documents they need until Wednesday. So they have to hurry up and turn it in the next day or they're timed out and then considered denied. And it just creates more headache on our end because our legislature or our rules are, if they are pending, we can continue to pay, continue to support. The second their status turns to denied, they're out the door.
Ooh.
So I will say that 22, I'm concerned, is going to be an uphill battle for us to use the terminology benefits have timed out rather than denied. Because our notices have to be legally sufficient and timed out has a different meaning than denied.
Absolutely.
So I think we're on a good path of looking for client-centered and less triggering language, but we're going to have to work pretty closely with hearings and policy and communications to ensure any language we do ask to move forward with is going to meet those legal sufficiencies to communicate to the client. And we need to think about there's different statuses that a case can be in. There's denied, which means they applied and we said, no, you're not eligible. There's also discontinued, which means they had benefits. They applied 12 months ago. They had benefits for their 12-month and they didn't renew. Or they had benefits for 3 months, and then they reported a change that made them ineligible. So they would be discontinued. And, you know, looking at what terms we want to use in each case to convey what's going on in a way that the customers are going to understand.
So we're also seeing that clients submit everything, but there's so many tasks ahead of them that a worker hasn't had the opportunity to actually work the documents. So they've already had an interview, they've already turned in documents. They just, no one's touched the documents to process them till after the due date. So they're considered denied. And it's not on the client's part. It's everything's been turned in, but they're waiting for someone to work it.
Oh, so they could see benefits have been timed out or discontinued and just be, you can imagine the anguish, but yet their case may be in review.
It's, yeah, technically it's in review still, but the system comes out as denied because, again, the document was due on the 27th. Client turned it in the 21st, but no one's touched it yet. And now we're in the 30th. So no one's got to it yet because the eligibility workers have a large queue that once they get to it, the 3rd or the 4th, then it might revert. But there's still that time where they're denied. And then clients don't want to pick up their phone. Like, I got denied. I did everything you asked. And it's like, no, they just haven't touched it yet. Let's wait and see.
Well, then why don't we just, I mean, that's so horrible. That's so horrible. And you just imagine the time that is spent doing back and forth. And instead of putting benefits have been timed out, which only to me, you know, means computer timed out, put benefits unavailable, benefits in review.
Yeah, because eligibility workers put due dates on stuff. And like, that's where also I jumped in, like, can we get a confirmation? Like, I know I dropped it in there, like a confirmation that something was submitted, and maybe confirmation can then extend the due date. I don't know, something, or click that due date was met somehow, because that's what's happening.
It's really tricky for medical programs if there's an open task and a task. So when a customer returns the documents that were requested, right? They received a request for information, they returned the documents, whatever it was. If one of those tasks is open for medical, it will not automatically deny the case because Center for Medicaid Services said that we can hold it open. We don't have to deny. Some of our other federal partners like Food and Nutrition Services for SNAP say, you have to send a denial on the 30th day, regardless of what's going on. Unless you have had a specific conversation with the customer and are waiting for something, and you go and mark that on the case to extend them. So some of our federal partners understand the reality, and some of them are in the 1980s.
Fire those people.
I
just applied for one of the air conditioners, and they finally sent me the form in the mail, and the form has to be faxed back to them.
Oh my gosh. Where's a fax machine?
I didn't even know there was a fax machines.
Well, I
even
think that's
existed.
different for individual CCOs, because there's some CCOs, because like that program, some of them haven't even set it up yet, where we have clients saying, hey, we heard about this program, we're like, we still haven't set up our processes yet. Yes, it's been approved, but we don't have processes for it yet.
So guys, do we want to work on these 11 through 45?
Well, we're already into them.
Yeah.
Might as well go in, jump in the pool.
Right.
So 45 is one that I don't think we have ever talked about. And it kind of stresses me out, quite frankly. This came from workers. So again, I'm not sure that it's ours to deal with, but okay, we can look at it. So what they're asking here is that there are some notices that are created that are created outside of the ONE system. So I'm thinking of maybe you guys are familiar with this one, the MSC 0231, which is the designation of authorized representative. And James is making the space. I had to redesign that form multiple times, so I know that one really well. I hate that form. It haunts my dreams. That form does not exist in the ONE system. So if we
Oh my God.
I
Jeez.
get it off of the form server and send it manually. And if a customer logs into their ONE online portal, they don't see that notice went to them, it's not available to them. Most people don't refer to notices by their form number. I don't know what you expect from me, James. Between this and Girl Scouts, I deal with a lot of form numbers. So anyway, so yeah, there's a lot of limitations by not having every form in ONE, but adding additional forms and notices into ONE is a big project. Big. Like I said, we already have 144, and adding to that inventory is quite the undertaking. However, customers having the ability to view everything that is mailed to them in their ONE online portal seems like a good idea. So it stresses me out because I know it's massive, but I think there's value in it.
So is 22 gonna take us 2 months to solve?
22?
Yes.
I think it'll take us when you start haggling about language, it'll probably be a couple weeks of policy and hearings and representatives from this group going back and forth on how we want to word this.
Because the notice here from April, and I agree with her, 22 may be an uphill battle, but it is worth fighting.
Yeah.
So sounds like there's a couple things, we're going to need to flesh out these ideas a bit more. It sounds like there's interest in all of these. And then we'd also need to, within our group, prioritize these. But I suppose that comes later, really.
We don't have to prioritize them.
Yeah.
The quarterly meeting prioritizes them for us. You go in and fist fight, then you guys all vote.
I guess I say prioritize because you get into a slugfest with OHA over something. I would want to know, and I think anyone who's attending the meeting would want to know, well, which one to really go to the mat for, because you can't probably get 5 or 6 things that you're fighting for simultaneously. You want to know which ones do you want to really charge the hill on. So that would be my request of going in, but that comes later. We just getting them in is a step by itself.
Does anybody, what do you want to put into the brainstorming?
Is there a way to like maybe be able to vote on this and like add notes? Because I feel like at least when 22, I'm there to fight for. I will go there and I will cheese anyone's car to change 22. I don't care. When it comes to 20 though, this is not only benefiting the client, but think about the work hours of not having to cold call, the reduce of work on eligibility workers to have the client ability to request an interview time and you not having to do that. I just feel like it makes even just good business sense to do that. Like, why not? also willing to cheese a card for that. So yeah.
So Susan, Angra, Sydney, do you guys have this problem? Radford? Brandy? Do you have this problem?
Samantha, are you referring to cheese the car?
Yes, I am back. But
Sorry, we used to, maybe it was growing up where we would like never actually, we would not. This, I've heard people would get like slices of cheese and cheese it on someone's car to get your point across that you are very dedicated to this, willing to cheese someone's car for it.
I love it. I love it. I knew there had to be some sort of story. I'm there. We're cheesing.
Vanessa, we used to butter people's cars when I was in high school. And we would put butter on their windshield or underneath
Love
their
it.
door handle.
Ooh, that's a step up.
But they were our friends.
Yeah, yeah.
We used Vaseline, so.
Oh gosh.
Okay, so are we gonna vote on 22 as ones we are gonna work on? Or is it, because I really agree, this is.
Well, what we could do, Judith, if James and them wants to do this in this group, as we're working on this now, we can also transport all this to the next meeting too, because it may take us more than just one meeting to do all the 11 through 45.
Can we check any of them off today? Because I mean, number 11 allows users to archive and delete old messages. That seems like am I wrong? That seems like a no-brainer, but am I missing something?
Samantha, what do you think?
I think it's pretty straightforward. And we talked about it quite a bit. I could probably dig up our old notes on it.
Yeah. So
this is one we were trying to do as a work item, and Deloitte came back and said, absolutely not. That is a change request. So I bet I could find our old notes.
Yeah.
so we can click that one off of our list. Okay.
So then we'll have 14, 20, 22, and 45. Anybody's got any brainstormers on other ideas for possible CRs?
Well, can 45 and 11 almost kind of be put together? Because if I'm able to archive my old messages, I'm already in there looking at everything I have. And if I feel like if it's a notice that I don't necessarily like, I don't know, some random notice that I know I'm never gonna have to refer to, I can archive it, but be able to have like, hey, this is when, here's my eligibility approval for this or that, like being able to almost like manage it like you would your email inbox, where this is my favorites, my spam, my starred, like, can that be combined? 45 and 11 be compressed together?
They are on pretty different parts of the system. We can combine them, but it's not going to help it go faster. The group that reviews these is pretty hesitant on I say hesitant, that not that we fairly had a choice, on really, really, really big changes. 45 is going to be probably a couple thousand hours of work, and it will probably slow down 11, which could be 150 hours worth of work, right? Whereas if they see something that's 150, they might be like, oh, let's just knock that one out. So it might behoove us to keep them separate, because we might get to move one in faster. There's a little bit of, there's a game here, right?
I see.
Yeah. He's becoming familiar with, and probably would like to not be familiar with, but he's gonna get real good at the game soon.
I'd like the picture of all these people and where they live.
What kind of cheese they don't like?
Yeah, right. Got it.
Susan, you want to say something?
Yeah, I would have an additional request in the message center that it shows what program it's regarding. Because if you look in the message center, it's just all these messages and you have no idea what program each one is referring to unless you press on the button to say, see what the message says. So like when I do OHP and there's messages for all these programs, I would like to see the medical notices right off the bat.
That's a
and
great
not
idea.
have to split, check every one.
That's a great idea. And we should add that to 11 because that's all work on the same page.
Sydney is for
It won't take a significant amount of time.
So that's not we couldn't get away with that as a work item. Just put that identification on, you think, Sam?
We might be able to. I can ask. It doesn't hurt to ask.
Yeah.
I'll log it and see what they say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
NJ?
I'm not sure if what I'm about to ask is related to any of this or if it's something brand new or what, but I serve Korean speaking community. So most of my members, they request, the notice to be sent in Korean. So they will get a notice about, their OHP benefit, the medical benefit in English. But then about 2 to 4 weeks later, they will get the same letter in Korean. But because of that gap is so long, when they bring the Korean notice, that we are all confused. Like, is this something new or is this something, relate to the old one? And since we cannot really compare English and Korean by, side by side, we are not quite sure, did we already handle this? Like, let's just say, like, even the SNAP renewal certification or renewal application, so the member gets the English one, so we, fill it out and sign and, we submit it. But then like 4 weeks later, they will get it in Korean. Then we are not quite sure if this one that we sent, the English version was processed or it hasn't processed. So do we need to send this again or we don't have to send it again? Like there are all these confusion. So I'm wondering if there is a way that they can receive English and Korean letter in same mail or just within a few days.
I have great news today, and I think you're going to be very happy. We are currently working on a change to the way that we process our translations, such that we're adding an additional 9 languages where the all notices will be produced real time in those languages. So just like Spanish translations come out same day rather than the English from the ONE system, we are adding Arabic, Ukrainian, Dari, Haitian Creole, Farsi, Korean, Romanian/Moldovan, Cambodian, and French later this year as part of our phase 1 transition. So those additional languages will come out of the system automatically for all notices. And then as time progresses over the next year, we will be preparing for our top 10 or top 20 notices to be available in, what was that, James?
It's 20, yeah, top 20.
Top 20 notices, so our most popular notices, our frequent flyers, to be available in all languages that we have customers that read/speak. So even if we only have one person in the state who speaks that language, the top 20 notices will be translated for them and coming out of the system, just like Spanish, Vietnamese, Russian, and simplified and traditional Chinese come out of the system now. So that's a change we are looking at over the next 12 months. Super excited to be able to tell you guys about that because I'm not sure that that's been kind of discussed with the public. So yes, Jay, we're going to do that thing.
Okay, so I'm sorry. So the notice will be mailed out in same day, the English and Korean.
Yep.
Okay, that's great because we've been actually going into our clients' ONE portal and change everything to just English because it's been so confusing for them. So that's a great news. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yes. And so going forward, it does really help us as we are going to move more languages towards having full notice coverage to have an understanding of how large the population is for those languages. So definitely make sure you're setting, you can choose multiple languages. Make sure that you're setting them as speaking whatever languages they do speak at home, so we know what languages to ensure that notices are available in. But yeah, it's coming very soon.
I do want to make note, this is George again, on the other ideas for possible CRs on brainstorming, I would like to see the things that I had mentioned many moons ago in other meetings, that when you're all finished, that at the end, it gives you the do's and don'ts, where you go in and you do medical and it gives you a do or don't. You go and do state service form and it gives you a do and don't, and it gives you a food stamp and it gives you a do and don't. I would like to see at least one do and don't in there, so 3 separate ones. Is there a possibility? I know feds on the food stamps might be a little of a problem.
I must have just missed something there. When you say a do and don't, you mean like in the notices or just?
Yeah, James, when you go in and you do a form, so like you go in, and you're a consumer, you go in and you do all these stuff for the medical. And then you got to go in and do stuff for the food stamps. And then you got a separate form where you got to do state services. Well, at each one, all 3 of them, there's a do and don't at the end of each form. The do's and don'ts that you do, like you're not supposed, for example, like when you're done doing the form, it gives you an example, don't lie on the form or something like that. To give you an example, instead of having 3 separate ones, why not have one single one with a check mark for acknowledgement? I think it would be conserving time and less confusion for consumers by having one notice after you're done with all 3 forms and all 3 services when you're done with the forms.
It sounds like a deeper conversation that we need to explore. And we're at time. In fact, we're beyond time for the meeting. But yeah, talking about notices, as we've seen in our comments section, is a hot topic. And clarifying the do's and don'ts, George, would be an excellent topic for us to bring up. We should maybe start thinking about some of the more common notices that we can discuss here. But
I do know that.
Yeah.
Sorry, I do know that there's 2 people, when they go to do and apply for these services, it drives them absolutely bonkers when they go through every single do and don't for every form.
Yeah.
For medical, state, and food stamp. It drives them nuts.
And just combine them, huh?
Yeah. Instead of having 3, why not have 1?
Yeah. Sure, there's a lot of overlap too. All right. Well, next time around, we're going to have that. What was it? Request 35 and 39. We'll have that right up. We'll have some more information on these change requests. We've got noticed that, and we're going to have a new meeting time next month. We'll see if this sticks. Wednesday, 12:30 Pacific, and
don't forget the iconograph discussion.
Yeah, and we didn't get to the iconography discussion because we were really moving along in the change request, but we'll have to come to that next time around as well. So I want to thank you all for another good meeting. Ruth, you look like you want to say something.
No, huh?
Okay. George, any other parting words?
Yeah. Thank you all for being on this committee. You guys really do hard work. I'm glad to be part of this committee, so I know that we're making changes. It's making a lot of difference in people's lives. And so you be safe out there, and I will see you at the next meeting in August. Meeting adjourned.